The truth about the millionaire that haunts everyone. Wait until the waiter stands up. The fog clung to the town like a secret. It was thick and heavy, curling around the dimly lit street lamps, whispering tales of the past. The air felt charged, almost electric, as if the universe held its breath. In a small, unassuming diner marked by flickering neon signs, a mystery that sent chills down spines brood. Stories of a millionaire who vanished without a trace had haunted the residents for years. But last night, something extraordinary happened. An oversized menu dangled from the wall, illuminated by a flickering bulb, casting an eerie glow on the face of the young waiter. His brow glistened with sweat, and his hands trembled as if they were holding a secret too heavy to bear. He was always there, the same weary expression, as if he'd seen things no one could fathom. And yet, as he moved through the diner's crowded tables, a low murmur arose. The wooden floor creaked under his weight with each step, and the faint sound of forks clinking against plates seemed to build a rhythm of anticipation. People whispered about the millionaire's fate, his fortune left undistributed, said to be hidden within the very walls of the diner. Some said it was cursed. Tales of flickering lights and shadows in the corner of their eyes, coupled with the unsettling feeling that they were being watched, made the hair on the back of their necks stand up. The diner's regulars would catch glimpses of a figure in the fog, only to turn and find nothing there, just the pale light spilling from the diner that seemed to flicker in response. But last night, during the dinner rush, a collective gasp escaped the crowd. The waiter, his face drained of color, had dropped a stack of plates, sending them shattering to the ground. "Did you see it?" A customer shrieked, pointing. "The ghost." Gasps filled the air, fanning the flames of intrigue. What was it? Had the millionaire returned? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Whispers grew louder amidst the clattering of dishes. The waiter took a step closer, his voice shaky. I saw something. Silence fell. The air thickened. It was him, the millionaire, standing right there. He pointed to an empty corner of the diner, and the crowd leaned in as if drawn to an unseen force. A cold chill swept through the diner, deepening the mystery. The bell above the door jingled, but no one walked in. The customers exchanged wide-eyed glances. Tension crackled like a live wire. What had the waiter seen? A flicker of a smile from the ghostly figure? Or a warning? What did it mean? The shadows grew longer as the fog wrapped tighter around the diner, swallowing the light whole. Their hearts raced. Would they uncover the truth behind that ghostly presence? Would they dare to pull back the curtain on the haunting mystery of the millionaire? The crowd erupted into murmurs, a cacophony of hushed voices intermingled with disbelief. Faces paled and eyes widened, all glued to the spot the waiter had indicated, the forgotten corner, bathed in shadow. A woman at the counter clutched her coffee cup so tightly her knuckles turned white, her gaze darting back and forth. Did they dare to believe the ghost stories they laughed off? The waiter took a step back, his hands still trembling. "I can't move," he breathed, shaken. For him, time twisted, stretching it taut. A scrape of a chair echoed as someone stood up, sending a wave of tension rippling through the diner. What if it's true? A man whispered, his voice cracking with fear. It was a question that hung in the air like a thick fog, and as it settled, a ripple of anxiety coursed through the diners. Everyone listened. The waiter finally summoned the courage to speak, his voice steadying. "I worked here for years, and I have seen him." A desperate hush fell upon the crowd. "Every time I close the diner, I hear the whispers. I feel him watching. I know it sounds insane, but he swallowed hard, yes here." A sense of collective disbelief began to morph into a kind of wild curiosity. The initial shock transformed into eagerness, the thrill of the hunt igniting hearts and minds. The millionaire's disappearance was the town's most tantalizing mystery, an unsolved puzzle tantalizingly close. Who wouldn't want to witness such a thing, to grasp that elusive truth? Suddenly, the diner door swung open with a creak that echoed through the now silent space. A gust of wind poured in, swirling the fog like fleeting memories. The faintest chill of dread brushed against the customer's skin. In walked a woman, her face obscured by the thick mist. She paused just inside the doorway, her silhouette framed against the pale light. "What do you want?" someone dared to ask, voice shaky but firm. The newcomer moved slowly, stepping forward into the light. As she did, gasps rippled again. Her face was familiar, one that lingered in all their memories, a photo plastered on news clippings from years ago, the missing wife of the millionaire. The realization sent a shudder through the onlookers. How had she found her way here? Was she a ghost as well? Where is he? Her voice was a haunting whisper, filled with desperation. "You have to help me." The crowd leaned in, compelled by a force they couldn't explain. The tension electrified the air, churning anticipation in their stomachs. What was happening? "Help you?" The waiter echoed, eyes wide. "You mean you know where he is?" "Yes," she said, a flicker of light igniting in her eyes. "But it's not what you think." Panic and confusion washed over the faces around her. Could there be more to this tale? What hidden truths awaited them in the depths of the diner? As she began to explain, the building tension grew unbearably thick. Just then, the lights flickered violently, plunging the diner into darkness for a brief moment. When they returned, she was gone, vanished like smoke into the ether. The sudden silence was suffocating. Chairs scraped, and hearts raced. Was it all an illusion? Who was she, really? Would they dare to dig deeper into the shadows? Could the truth about the millionaire lie hidden just beyond the fog? The mysteries were only beginning to unravel, and the diner held secrets that begged to be uncovered. A heavy silence enveloped the diner, everyone holding their breath. The waitress, who had witnessed the bizarre scene unfold from a distance, dropped a stack of plates with a crash. It jolted the crowd back to reality, and they all exchanged uneasy glances. Did that just happen? One elderly man muttered, wiping perspiration from his brow. His voice trembled, revealing how deeply the mystery had unnerved him. "I don't know," another diner replied, eyes darting across the room. "What was that about? Where did she go?" The waiter, still shaken, took a deep breath, trying to regain composure. "I've seen things here. Strange things. I thought I was alone, but maybe I wasn't." He looked toward the corner where the woman had stood moments before. It now felt dangerously empty, shrouded in an unsettling gloom. "Why do you think she came back?" the woman at the counter asked. "If she knew something we have to know, we owe it to him." Her voice trembled with a mix of determination and fear. A ripple of agreement passed through the diners. The tunes of skepticism faded into an eagerness for the truth. They huddled closer together, whispering now, plotting their next move like moths drawn to a flickering flame. "I'm going to the back," the waiter declared suddenly, a spark of urgency igniting within him. "I need to see if the lights here are connected to the old storage room. That's where I last heard the whispers." The crowd watched as he moved with a strange determination, hesitating only briefly before disappearing through the narrow passage. With him gone, anxiety dripped like rain onto the tiles. The patrons exchanged nervous glances before a young woman near the door spoke up. What if the woman isn't just a ghost? What if she's trying to communicate something even more sinister? Jaws fell open as the chilling reality sank in. What if they had merely skimmed the surface of an unknown darkness? Maybe she was a warning. Another voice ventured, eyes wide, the thrill of fear fueling his thoughts. We might be in danger. Whatever happened with the millionaire, it could involve all of us now. The door creaked again, a reminder of the presence they all felt. They were trapped in this moment, a collective breath held in anticipation. Suddenly, from the back room, the waiter emerged, his face pale, eyes wild. "You need to see this," he called out. The urgency twisted in the air, heavy with dread as the group shifted towards him. Wide-eyed and terrified, he held a dusty, old journal in his hands, pages yellowed and fragile, a stark contrast to the brightly lit diner. "The Millionaire's journal," he said, voice shaking. "And it holds secrets that could change everything." The room fell silent, and all eyes fixated on the book. What lies have been interlaced into this mystery? Secrets spilled out that they weren't ready to digest. The diner was once again plunged into chaos as the energy shifted. Was it fate that brought them all together tonight, or a curse woven by the past? They were about to unravel more than they bargained for. "Do you think he knew what would happen to him?" The waitress whispered, clutching her apron tightly. As the waiter flipped the cover open, a frigid gust swept through the diner, freezing everyone in place. The words that followed were both a revelation and a threat. They all leaned in, heartbeats racing, breath hitching in their throats. Was she wasn't the only one who never left? In that moment, just outside the diner, a loud crash echoed in the night, a sound that sent shockwaves through the already taut air, hinting that the past had indeed returned with a vengeance. What awaited them in the pages of the journal, and would they be ready to face the consequences? The weight of the moment pressed heavily on everyone in the diner. The ambient sounds of clinking silverware and whispered conversations faded away, replaced by the cold draft that snaked through the room, drawing their gaze to the dusty journal in the waiter's trembling hands. "What do you mean?" a woman demanded, her voice straining against the tension in the air. "What does that even mean?" The waiter hesitated, his fingers curling around the worn cover, almost like he was afraid to reveal its contents. It struck him then, the dark spirit of the room wasn't just something lingering. It was alive, feeding off their fear, and he gazed around the faces before him, pale, anxious, desperate for answers. A sudden urge to flee gripped him, but he swallowed it down. He had already begun this journey, one he couldn't retreat from now. This journal, it details his connections, people he trusted, and those he betrayed. He stumbled, flipping through the brittle pages with caution, his heart racing with each turn. There are names here, accusations, things that he was involved in. Betrayal? A man scoffed softly, leaning forward. What could be so sinister about a millionaire? Money solves everything, right? Yet his eyes betrayed him, flickering with curiosity that morphed into fear. Sometimes money brings out a darkness you can't even imagine. The waiter shot back, knowing far too well the repercussions of greed. Just as he found a particularly faded page, a swift commotion erupted near the door. The door swung open with a force that rattled the diner. A gust blew in, nearly knocking over the display of napkins. It was a figure, cloaked in shadow, stepping over the threshold, a tall man whose face remained a mystery, but his presence slithered through the air, thickening the tension like fog. "Eddie," the voice called out, breaking the eerie stillness. It was the owner of the diner, his face drawn. We need to leave now." The diner scrambled back, shock rippling like a splash in a pond. "Why?" the waitress whispered from the sidelines, her body rigid with fear. "What do you know?" Eddie, eyes darting between the newcomer and the journal, felt a rush of panic. "You can't just rush in like this." "What do you mean, leave?" "They're coming for him," the sliver of a man said, his voice a chilling whisper. "And they'll come for all of us if we don't get out." "You read that journal?" "You shouldn't have. You've awakened something." A cacophony of voices erupted in disbelief and terror. The idea of running was absurd, and yet the palpable fear of the unknown constrained their minds. They were tied to this moment, grasping at half-formed thoughts. Eddie's fingers trembled as he clutched the journal. "What do you mean they?" "Look closer," the newcomer insisted, the shadows swirling around him. "The truth isn't about the millionaire. It's about what he left behind. That woman? She's only the beginning." The energy in the room shifted, a collective draw into the unknown. Who was this man, and what did he know? A loud bang from the back echoed again, so loud it felt like the diner shuddered in response. Every diner turned their heads toward the noise, the fear mounting until it overwhelmed them. Eddie, we have to go now. The weight of the journal in his grip felt like a lead weight. What if they were unleashing something far darker than they ever anticipated? With hearts racing, they faced a choice: the safety of retreat or the pull of the truth that lay within the pages. But outside, the chaos continued, threatening to breach their fragile sanctuary. What if it's too late? A diner whispered, dread pooling in their stomachs. I end the despairing moment. Outside again. A figure flashed past the diner window, a ghastly reminder that they weren't alone in the night. It was a new challenge, part of the layers they were untangling. The question loomed: would they stand strong, find clarity, or let the shadows swallow them whole? As the uneasy silence settled once more, another heavy thud echoed just outside. Their fates were intertwined, and the chilling sense of urgency simmered. What awaited them next was shrouded in uncertainty. But one thing was clear: there was no turning back now. Eddie's heart raced, drumming against his ribs like a caged bird desperate for freedom. The shadows cast by the newcomer flickered and shifted, illuminating the fear in the faces around him. The diner was suddenly a stage for a nightmarish play, and he was at center stage, paralyzed by the weight of the journal and the chilling chaos outside. "Eddie, move," the diner owner urged, his voice cutting through the rising panic. But Eddie remained rooted to the spot, captivated by the distant sounds of struggle muffled just outside the diner walls. He had no more. "What does it say? What else is in there?" A steep voice demanded from the back, piercing through the rising uncertainty and gripping Eddie's gut with unease. Flipping another brittle page, Eddie squinted in the dim light. Names, places, incidents. Each word fell out of his mouth heavy with dread. Their essay connection to, but he never finished. Without warning, the power flickered, the overhead lights stuttering before plunging the diner into darkness. A collective gasp rose from the patrons, the earlier sounds of air and clinking cups replaced by a suffocating silence. "Stay close." The new shadows shifted menacingly as Eddie felt a surge of adrenaline. The journal was his only anchor. He grabbed the table, feeling the wood-esque grain under his fingers as he summoned what courage he had left. Then came the unmistakable sound of relentless pounding against the back door. It echoed through their sanctuary, a drumbeat of impending doom crashing against their frail walls. "Let me see that," the waitress shouted suddenly, her eyes wild with desperation. She lunged forward, snatching the journal from Eddie's grip. He was too stunned to react, watching as she flicked through the pages, her expression shifting from confusion to dawning horror. Is this or these people connected to him? Her eyes widened, as if the very shadows whispered secrets directly into her ear. "Look at this," she exclaimed, pointing to a faded photo tucked in the journal. It was small and worn, showing a group of people, all smiling, unaware of the darkness that awaited. For a heartbeat, all eyes were glued to that image. "What if we try to—" Eddie began, but the door behind them exploded open with a bang, splintering wood and sending shards flying. A figure stood there, cloaked in the darkness, mere outlines of something dreadful. Their breath hitched like an omen, sealing their fate. "Run!" the newcomer shouted, and instinct kicked in. They surged forward, feet pounding against the tile floor, scattering towards the front. Eddie's mind whirled. There were names in that journal, people he needed to warn. Was he going to leave it all behind? But in that very moment, the figure at the door stepped into the light, revealing a face twisted with malice. The diner froze, the weight of everyone's breaths pulling them taut as they awaited what horror would unfold next. "Stop!" came the voice again, chilling and commanding. "You've disturbed something dangerous." The diners, paralyzed, looked around at one another, and for a split second, allegiance shifted. Was it fear that bound them together, or was something more sinister? "Who are you?" Eddie's voice strained to cut through the oppressive air. But answers would not come. Instead, the figure brandished an object that glimmered menacingly under the flickering lights, a metallic flash that sent a jolt of pure terror into the crowd. "I know what you found, and you'll regret it if you don't return it." What did they awaken? What were they really dealing with? Answers danced on the edge of their consciousness, just out of reach as the figure's threat hung heavy in the air. As Eddie turned to see the faces around him, he realized they were all about to meet a reckoning they never signed up for. A trembling whisper cut through the chaos like a knife. What if it's all true? Outside, the darkness loomed, hungry and waiting, ready to swallow whole anyone who dared to face the truth. As the figure drew closer, the diners stood at the precipice of fear, uncertainty gripping their hearts like a vice. With breath held tight, they faced a choice: confront the figure in the shadows wielding their secrets or plunge into the unknown. Would they dare to discover the truth about the millionaire, or would they be consumed by the very secrets they thought they could hold? The moment hung suspended, waiting to snap. What lay ahead was a challenge that would change everything. What grim revelation awaited their next step? Eddie's pulse hammered in his ears as the air thickened with tension. The metallic glint in the stranger's hand seemed to draw him in, like a moth to a flame. It was a weapon, something sharp and jagged, and the way it caught the sparse light sent a sickening ripple of fear through his gut. Who the hell are you? Eddie was surprised by his own defiance, stepping forward despite the terror that paralyzed the others. The figure loomed closer, obscured in shadow, yet made undeniable by the menace radiating from them. Enough. Get back. The figure barked, eyes glinting with ferocity. The diners flinched collectively, the reality of their situation crashing over them like icy water. Please just put the knife down, the waitress pleaded, her voice trembling. Knife? This is far worse. The figure's voice dripped with danger, sending chills racing through Eddie. You've unleashed something that requires more than mere tools. The pounding on the doors intensified, as if urging them to break open and reveal the horrors awaiting beyond. Eddie's gaze darted to the other patrons, faces illuminated by fear and confusion. What do you mean? He squeezed out, clutching the edge of the table for support. I'm talking about the journal, the stranger said, lowering their weapon just enough to flick a glance at the waitress, clutching the journal close to her chest as if it were a grenade ready to explode. It holds names linked to a curse, voices that echo through histories you can't possibly comprehend. Gasps filled the space. Eddie's stomach dropped. A curse? Are you serious? The figure snapped their head back, face tightening in determination. So very serious. Those names, each one, carries a legacy of darkness. You think you stumbled upon mere incidents? No, these are paths leading back to a man whose life is built on blood. If you don't return that journal by dawn, he will come for you. For all of you. The word blood hung in the air, thickening the atmosphere with a new layer of dread. Eddie felt his throat constrict. He couldn't shake the feeling that the answer was deeper and more troubling than anyone here had prepared to face. Who is this man? Someone shouted from the back, their voice cracking. What do you know? I know he doesn't forgive, the figure warned, stepping closer, their presence daunting. He takes what is his with interest. You'll wish you had never touched that book. Nervous whispers erupted, racing through the group like a wildfire. The oppressive darkness outside clawed at their minds, silently seducing them with visions of escape, but the very act of running felt futile. Eddie sensed that they were caught in a web woven from the threads of that wretched journal. Eddie, please, the waitress's voice trembled, pulling him from the abyss of his despair. What do we do? He looked from her to the figure, and then out through the shattered door. The chaos outside was escalating, muffled cries mixing with the noise of discord. We can't just give it back. He breathed. There's information that could save lives. For the price of your own? The stranger's eyes narrowed. What makes you believe any of this is worth it? You think you can stand against him? Eddie shook his head, resolute. What's the alternative? Just hand it over without a fight? The air turned electric as the diners shifted, a spark flickering in the unity of fear and uncertainty. Each heart pulsed with the realization that they were no longer just bystanders. They were entangled in a web of secrets far more sinister than anticipated. They had to make a choice. Eddie, the waitress's voice trailed off, her eyes pleading. What if we're not prepared for this? The figure leaned in, sinister anticipation dancing in their gaze. Securing the past comes with a cost. Are you willing to pay that price? With dawn moments away and darkness encroaching fast, Eddie felt the weight of their fates press down. He knew they were standing on the brink of something vast and terrifying. What they would decide might echo through their lives forever. Decide quickly. The figure hissed, A.S. the pounding at. The door grew louder. Eddie felt the answer on the tip of his tongue, teetering between hope and horror. He had to act. The question was how far he was willing to go to unveil the truth, and who would rise with him when they did. Would it ensure salvation or seal their doom? His heart raced as the floor beneath him seemed to quiver, urging him into a choice that could reshape their reality forever. One wrong step could plunge them deeper into the shadows. With a deep breath, he finally whispered, "We need to confront him, all of us." But as he spoke those fateful words, they heard the unmistakable sound of breaking glass, and that S when they realized. The darkness wasn't T just outside. It had already crept inside. What lay in the depths of the shadows would test their will, and Eddie could only wonder would they rise or fall together, caught in the web of a nightmare they unwittingly spun. The shattered glass shattered the veil of uncertainty, and with it, the air thickened with panic. Eddie's heart raced as he spun toward the sound, dread pooling in his stomach. The figure in shadow remained rigid, tension coiling like a snake ready to strike. "They're coming in," someone shrieked, and eyes turned instinctively to the door. Faint silhouettes pressed against the glass, a twisted dance of bodies shadowed by chaotic flashes of light. Eddie felt every heartbeat echoing louder than before. The stakes were climbing. "Focus," the stranger commanded, voice booming over the rising fear. "We need to hold our ground. Until we know what is truly at stake, we can't succumb to chaos." Eddie's eyes darted back to the waitress. She held the journal tightly, knuckles white, her fear mingled with defiance. "What do we do, Eddie?" She whispered. "This isn't just some sick joke." "Right. Let us start with reason," Eddie replied, even though his voice trembled. "Tell us more. You mentioned a man built on blood. Who is he?" The figure shifted, their intensity sharpening. "He is the specter of vengeance, one whose name is cursed among those unfortunate enough to stir his wrath. His influence stretches far, twisting the lives of anyone involved." Eddie felt a chill creep up his spine. "And if we don't give back the journal, misery follows," the figure interrupted. "Death may come dancing through those doors tonight. A relentless hunt for the souls who possess what he desires." "Great," a diner muttered, hand clutching the edge of a table, knuckles turning white. "What do we have?" A horror flick playing out live. Fear erupted into a clamor. Some wanted to escape, while others urged to fight. Eddie knew they were running out of time. That journal had become more than a relic. It was the key to their survival or demise. "Everyone listen," Eddie shouted, cutting through the cacophony. "Whatever this is, we can't let terror govern our actions. We confront him. Together." The figure's gaze flickered with a grim sense of agreement. Courage often appears foolish to the scared, but sometimes the darkness can be defied by the light of unity. Eddie stepped closer to the figure. "If we do this, we need a plan. What do we say to him? What can we offer that might save us?" The uncertainty was palpable, but he could see something flicker in the eyes of the diners. A thread of resolve tightened, a bond forged by shared fear. "Tell him the truth," the figure spoke tightly. "Revealing the hidden can agitate him, but doing so might also earn you a moment's distraction. Use it wisely." The room fell silent, breaths held as Eddie steeled himself. "Are we ready for this?" he asked, searching their faces. They met his gaze with a blend of anxiety and determination. The darkness outside pounded mercilessly against the barricaded door, each thud resembling a heartbeat drawing closer. Together, then, a voice from the back broke through the gloom with unexpected confidence. "Together, we face him." The resolve blossomed, igniting the air like a spark. But as they formed a ring, ready to brace the storm, the door buckled violently. with a ferocity that sent shards of fear rolling through them. It burst open as a figure stepped inside, silhouetted against the tumult outside, a malevolent form stepping into the very belly of their struggle. He wore a smirk that twisted into a grin, sharp and predatory. "Ah," he purred, languorously surveying the room, eyes gleaming with a hunger that chilled Eddie to the bone. "I see you've chosen to gather. How charming and utterly futile." Panic flared. The strangers shifted, raising their weapon once more, eyes locked on the man who now filled the entrance with an aura of doom. "Do you even comprehend the mess you've made?" The newcomer challenged, hands held wide as if inviting calamity. Eddie's heart thundered as those piercing eyes settled on him. "Why so tense, Eddie? The past has a way of catching up with us all, but I have something special planned for you." The air turned electric with a disconcerting tension. Eddie's mind raced. They had crossed a line, and now they faced the true embodiment of their nightmares. What chaos lay ahead? As the candlelight flickered wildly, Eddie could only ponder had his courage made them less or more vulnerable. With one hesitant step forward, he barely whispered, "What do you want?" The man chuckled darkly, leaning closer, his expression twisted into something sinister. "Oh, we're just getting started, aren't we?" And then, in that charged atmosphere, Eddie realized they inadvertently invited a much darker game into their lives, one where the rules had yet to be revealed. Eddie's breath hitched as the sinister figure advanced. The air around him felt heavy, like a noose tightening. The diner felt small and confined, each trembling soul trapped within its walls. The reality of their predicament sank in deeper. This was no mere confrontation, it was the brink of disaster. "Let us not waste time, shall we?" The man crooned, casually brushing a hand across the back of a nearby chair. "I believe it's time for some enlightenment." The lantern lights trembled, casting nightmarish shadows that twisted across the walls. Eddie could hear whispered fears behind him, words barely forming on quivering lips. "What do you mean by enlightenment?" He forced out, trying to sound steady. The man grinned wider, revealing teeth as sharp as broken glass. "You've stumbled into a realm of consequences. That journal you cling to? It's far from just paper and ink. It holds truths intertwined with blood, a lineage steeped in suffering." Eddie tightened his grip on his own resolve. "It doesn't need to end in violence. We could talk this out. Just tell us what you want from us." The smirk faded slightly, replaced by an expression that bore more shadows than light. "Talk? How quaint. Do you think conversations save lives?" "You see, Eddie, it's your actions that matter. The past has a way of catching up, remember?" Muffled gasps echoed around them, and behind him, the waitress clutched the journal tighter, desperation flickering in her eyes. "How can it be so important?" she questioned, stepping forward as if all gathered air might sharpen her courage. "What is so special about it?" A cruel laugh emerged from the stranger's lips. "Oh, my dear," he mocked, "it speaks of a legacy that should have long been buried. Secrets left unguarded have a way of seeking their own justice or revenge." Eddie felt his stomach drop. All around him, fear radiated like heat from a flame. He felt the weight of their anxious glances, each awaiting his next move. "Is that what you want? Justice?" Eddie shouted, stepping closer, voice steeped in defiance. "You think you can reveal some truth and then just walk away? You're mistaken." The man's laughter danced through the air, taunting him. "Ah, but that's where you were wrong. Lies cloak the truth like a shroud. People prefer comforting illusions, don't they? It's the exposure that strikes the chord of despair." The waitress tilted her head, determination sparking. "What equals despair to you? This game you play, it can't be just about terror." The man's expression shifted, eyes glinting as if savoring her challenge. "A game? Oh, but this is no game, my sweet. And you've already played your first hand. Tell me, do you believe in ghosts? They haunt. They linger, they know the truth." Eddie felt a jolt at the reference. A ghost, a harbinger of what they had failed to confront. Death, loss, broken lives, so many untold stories piled upon the journal's pages echoed back at him. "Speak clearly," Eddie demanded, yet the urgency weighed his words down. The man relaxed, still locked in that aggressive confidence. You'll find clarity soon enough. But first he stepped back, casting a gaze through the door. Let's say hello to the visitors knocking. They've been waiting for their moment. A heavy thud echoed through the diner, rattling chairs and dishes. The atmosphere thickened like molasses, their collective anxiety rising like steam. The door splintered, and a figure emerged beyond the threshold, a shadow within shadows, moving with a predatory grace. Eddie's heart raced with terror as recognition sparked. It couldn't be chaos erupted, screams blending into a wave of confusion. Eddie's thoughts raced. Was running even an option? Or would it invite more suffering? He glanced around. The diners were ready for a fight or a flight, but they were missing a spark of understanding. Eddie, the waitress hissed, "What do we do?" As the doorway widened to reveal the wraith-like form of a second follower, the chilling truth dawned on him. They weren't just facing a tormentor. They were nestled in the heart of a storm that demanded to be faced. Together, he began, but the words died on his lips as the looming shadow stepped forward, a devilish grin splitting its face. "Let the games begin," it whispered, voice dripping with malice. Eddie's plans shattered like the glass that had once heralded their nightmares. The truth lingered just beyond the door, waiting to pounce. They had crossed the line, and now the shadows danced around them. Would they conquer the darkness or succumb to its thrall? He swallowed hard, aware that every heartbeat counted, and as the figures closed in, he realized this was only the beginning of their darkest night. What awaited them in the chamber, swirling with echoes of betrayal? The shadow stepped further into the diner, its outline distorting under the flickering lights. Eddie felt his heart pound like a drum. The figure was tall and menacing, with a face that seemed to melt into darkness. It was almost surreal, as if the very fabric of nightmares had taken form. Panic swept through the room. People stumbled back. Chairs scraped against the floor as diners scrambled for exits. But Eddie's feet were glued to the ground. He was trapped in a vortex of fear and dread, cut off from any rational thought. "Ladies and gentlemen," the man with the devilish grin addressed the crowd, his tone dripping with mockery. "Welcome to the performance of a lifetime. It's about to get enlightening." He held up a hand, and the other shadow flanked him, eyes glimmering with an unsettling hunger. Eddie's gaze darted between the figures, feeling the suffocating weight of despair creeping in. What do they want? He couldn't let them hurt anyone. Get away from them. Eddie's voice rang out, sharper than he anticipated. Adrenaline coursed through him, and he stepped forward instinctively, fists clenched. The man laughed, a sinister echo filling the diner. There was a twisted sense of joy in his demeanor, like they were the unwitting cast in his dark theater. "Oh, Eddie, your courage is admirable. But you misunderstand. This is not about them. It's always been about you." "About me?" Eddie shot back, bewildered. What could I possibly have to do with any of this? The man turned, his face alight with a haunting smile. "You don't even know the half of it, do you? What you've buried in that journal, your secrets, they connect us all. You together with the ghosts of your lineage, they wish to speak. But first, let us introduce another guest." With a slight wave of his hand, the second shadow shifted forward, dropping something heavy on the floor with a dull thud. A brief flash of metal caught the light, and Eddie's stomach tightened as he recognized the weapon resting there. "What is this?" He gasped, almost himself. "An invitation to the truth, my dear Eddie," the man replied, eyes glinting with a predatory thrill. "You get to choose fight or reveal. Either way, blood will spill tonight." The others began to murmur, voices tremored with fear as they tried to comprehend what was happening. The waitress gripped the journal tightly, her face pale but determined. "We need to get out of here," she urged, desperation spilling into her voice. Running one tea solve anything. Eddie shot back, fixing a glare on the onlookers. "We can't give in to fear." In that moment, the first shadow lunged, its movements coiling with lethal precision. Eddie's instincts kicked in just as fast. He sidestepped, grabbing a nearby chair and swinging it wildly. Metal clanged against wood, chaos erupting anew as people screamed. "Foolish boy," the man laughed, a cold rhythm to his taunting. "You think you can defend yourself when the truths of your past are coming to claim you?" But as the confrontation escalated, something inside Eddie flickered. He wasn't just a bystander anymore. He was part of something larger, a haunting legacy interwoven with his fate. Just as he rallied his thoughts, the waitress rushed to his side. "There has got to be a way to make sense of this. We need to find out what they want," she shouted, leaning closer, urgency radiating from her. The man stepped back slightly, a flicker of interest crossing his face. "Ah, but my dear, to embrace the truth is to embrace your deepest fears." He waved a hand like a conjurer. "Shall we find out together?" Eddie felt a chill race up his spine. This was a game, a dark dance with mortality hanging in the balance. Would they reveal the past, or be consumed by it? The diner buzzed with tension, breaths held tight, anticipation crackling like electricity in the as the shadows loomed. Eddie could see the path before him growing clearer. The answers lay within reach, but at what cost? The moment of confrontation loomed, and he braced himself for the storm ahead. "Let us make a choice," Eddie uttered, clenching his fists in resolve, but before he could make his move, the diner's lights flickered violently, plunging them into darkness for a heartbeat that felt like eternity. What would emerge from that darkness, truth or tragedy? The chaos exploded around them. Eddie's heart thundered in his chest as he felt the palpable fear of the diners. The oppressive shadows danced, teasing their senses, straining against the thin barrier of light. Everything held its breath, edging towards either revelation or disaster. In that pitch-black moment, the connection to his history loomed larger than life. "We can't let them win," Eddie shouted, voice breaking the silence like glass shattering. The determination rippling through the patrons charged the air. "We face the truth together. We're not alone in this." A flicker of recognition ran through the eyes of the diners. A few whispers turned into murmurs of agreement as they rallied together. "Let us uncover what really happened," the waitress cried, clutching the journal. "It's not just about us. It's about everyone he harmed." Then the lights surged back on. The room dimly illuminated the figure looming in the entrance, unyielding and draped in menace. Eddie's throat tightened with resolve as he saw clarity pierce through the chaotic haze. They had power to confront the shadows, to unearth the truth and expose the darkness lurking within. The sinister figure laughed, a cruel sound echoing off the walls. "Oh, how touching. You really believe you can stand against destiny? How admirable." But there was uncertainty behind the bravado. A crack in the facade of confidence flickered. This was their moment. They could no longer be bystanders in this treacherous game. "What do you want from us?" Eddie demanded, stepping forward, channeling every ounce of courage he possessed. "What will it take to set this right?" The man smirked, but his eyes were guarded. "You think it's just about compensating for losses? In truth, nothing ever really ends. Lives are intertwined through betrayals, debts unfulfilled, and bloodshed that stains the soul. You must choose who will bear the cost. It's not just a choice between a life or a death," the waitress added, her voice trembling but firm. "It's about restoring the balance. The truth needs to rise, not bury us deeper." The shadows shifted behind him, revealing the second figure stepping forward, hunger glimmering in its eyes. "You misunderstand," it hissed, lifting a weapon that glinted ominously. "Every secret has a price. You've already awakened something ancient. Now it's time to pay up." In that moment, something shifted in Eddie. Fear no longer constricted his throat, it burned with purpose. "Let's expose everything," he shouted, voice steadying. "Bring it all out. The truth about the millionaire, about his wife, about every last connection buried under lies. Will share the stories that echo from these walls." For the first time, confusion flickered in the menacing figure's eyes. Anger flared behind their menace. But the diners circled around Eddie, united. It was hope against despair, light battling darkness. "Those stories deserve to be heard," Eddie declared, every word surging with strength. Fury should lead to justice. Help us understand, and you'll see those ghosts freed, not shackled to our fear. Brief silence fell. Shadows didn't just hover. They flickered uncertainly. The figures exchanged startled glances, considering the proposal. You think they will leave willingly? The man asked, brow furrowing slightly. That this all ends in peace. I know it won't be easy, Eddie admitted, but we can do it together. We must face the darkness and expose the truth behind every name in that journal. Those we lost deserve that. They deserve to be remembered. Behind him, the others nodded, a chorus of determination fading in their eyes. Let us speak for them, a diner chimed in, try to mask the tremors of fear with strength. Let us share their stories. The figure stepped back, retreating slightly, eyebrows raised in disbelief. You defy the price? You reject the simplicity of slaughter? This is our sacrifice, the waitress responded boldly, raising the journal as if it were a shield. We don't need blood to end this. Just understanding. We stand as a united front. Something shifted in the air for the first time. Uncertainty mingled with his bravado. You think you can change the course of this? Asked the shadowy figure. It doesn't start with a knife. It starts with unity, Eddie declared, emboldened by the collective stance of families gathered there. It starts with the truth. The oppressive darkness began to lift. Shadows recoiled like a tide. Frustration etched across the figures' faces. The sheer audacity of their determination was a weapon in itself, and the figures faltered. You think you really can defy fate? The smirk faltered, revealing chasms of doubt. Perhaps you've discovered something that lies beyond a curse. Very well, share your tales. Perhaps I'll humor you. Eddie exhaled. This moment was the thin line between fear and courage. Each word they spoke would carve through generations of silence. As the shadowy figures stepped back into the darkness, the diners united closer, holding onto the journal and each other, poised to speak the revelations long hidden. And as they stood there, hearts steady and breath synchronized, they felt the past's weight lift ever so slightly. Together, they would face the truth. It would require sacrifice not of blood, but tears, vulnerability, and ultimately, stories shared. Eddie looked around. In their faces, he saw glimpses of courage they had never thought possible. Are we ready? He asked, the quiet strength compelling them all forward. With a deep breath, they began to speak, each voice rising through the remnants of fog and shadow of fear. They shared the tales snatched from the pages of the journal, one after another, forming a powerful wave of testimony. It echoed through the diner, weaving tales of loss, of love, of battles fought in silence. As the last story slipped from their lips, a soft glow encased them in warmth, as if the past cradled them in comfort. The grip of shadows loosened, the figures dissolved into the ether, and the haunting became a memory. The diner stood still once more, but this time it was cloaked in peace, a sanctuary transformed by a united voice sharing truth. It was just the millionaire's secrets they uncovered, but a journey towards healing. A legacy reclaimed, intertwined with compassion rather than fear. They all smiled small but shining, and just like that, they knew they could emerge into the dawn, shadowed no longer by the past. Eddie took a deep breath, the weight of dread lifted. Together, we shared our truth. Together, we rise. Together, they would face whatever came next. The struggles wouldn't vanish, but they had the strength to meet it head on. But first, it was essential for everyone to join this journey. If you felt the rush of this conclusion, then you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support and smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Don't stay silent. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us keep the magic alive.